just going to say, since we have a small group today, we only have a few people. Maybe each of us could just introduce ourselves and say if you've studied Hebrew before, like if you know what your level is or anything.
I can start. I'm Elisa, and 40 years ago, I was fluent in Hebrew. I've forgotten a lot of it. I'm now probably like a advanced beginner, maybe intermediate. And I guess that's it.
Okay. Okay. Irina?
So I started in August, but not from the very beginning, but I was a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
And I attended Ulpan once a week that was organized for a Russian-speaking, Russian American Aliyah group. So I attended 1 hour a week, and then I signed up for Zionist organization Ulpan, which is hour and 30 minutes twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
How did you find that? Did you find that that was helping?
Oh, it's definitely helping. But I'm sure it has to do with age, and everybody is teaching very differently.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is learning very differently. For instance, my husband is learning by listening much better. And I like to see how it is written and how it's built, and take apart what is source, what is preposition and suffix. That's everybody has a different learning style, and yeah, basically that's the idea.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I would just add, Irina made me think of this, that I was just in a 3-month online Ulpan twice a week, and we didn't actually speak that much, which was sort of disappointing. But she did. I think I'm sort of like her, that for me, learning some of the rules ahead of time. I mean, that's how I learned 40 years ago. I already knew a lot of grammar, and I needed the vocabulary. And then I was thrown into a place where I could only speak Hebrew, so then I learned very quickly, putting it together. But recently, I wasn't crazy about the teacher, but she did like point out some little grammatical rules that I hadn't known that were very helpful to move ahead.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing the screen again, and I'll just go through some of the things that I put together. And I kind of threw together different things, and if there's something in this that you see and you think, you know what, this isn't my learning style, feel free to ignore it and just take whatever does work. So I just try to put together as many things as possible just to sort of cover more bases. So let me just see. I'm going to try sharing the screen again. So is everybody seeing the PowerPoint right now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing that I wanted to start off with was just saying that, as you probably know, learning a language takes a lot of time. It's really like a long-term thing. It's more of a marathon and not a sprint. Let me actually start. Yeah, start. There we go. Okay. It's more of a marathon and not a sprint. So just keep that in mind. Some people get very they study for 2 months, and if they're not already fluent, they get very frustrated. It sounds like both of you have a little bit more experience with Hebrew to know that that's not necessarily realistic, and to know that it's kind of a long-term project. But it's just something, it's like a psychological thing that I think is very important. And I would also recommend, because we all have things that we need to do. Many people work, many people have family. We have all sorts of other things that take away our time and attention. I would just say if you're particularly busy, sometimes like even scheduling it in. So if you know, for example, that you have to go to work at a certain time, maybe scheduling in, even if it's 15 minutes in the morning or something, or during your lunch break, whenever you have time. But just if you have that schedule, just to keep yourself on track. Just because I find personally with many things in life, whether it's learning something, whether it's exercise, it's easy to say I'll do it sometime. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it sometime soon. And that sometime never comes. So just having a regular thing, and even 5 minutes a day is better than nothing. So that's just the first thing that I wanted to start with. The second thing that I wanted to mention was I've been working with this course. So I'm actually going to show you. It's available on Amazon, both Amazon.com and Amazon.ca. So it's called Hebrew, a language course. So if you just type that into Amazon or Amazon.ca, you will find that. And it's 3 books in total. Let me see here if the table of contents. So actually, the way that this book works is that usually every chapter starts with some kind of short text. So I scanned a little bit of that here. I didn't scan the whole thing. It's longer than this. So there's a little bit of text, and I don't know if you can see this. There's all kinds of like they put words in the sidelines to help you follow along what's going on. And then at the end, there's also this like glossary of words. So it's really like every text in every chapter is very simple, and it's very geared, like whatever level you're at, it's very geared towards that. They don't try to include, weird things to confuse people or to surprise people. It's very like they try to work with you at your level. And I've loved this series. I've loved these books. I'm about halfway through the entire series. And one of the things that I love about it is that I just find it explains the grammar so well and so simply. I feel like really with any language, there's always a lot to learn in the grammar. And just the way that they explain everything is super simple. And I had a thing before, like I'm obviously learning Hebrew now, but I tried learning Hebrew a little bit before, and I always had trouble remembering certain things. And I found that when I'm working with these books right now, that they're not only is it really simple to understand, but they make it like it just clicks for some reason. It's so easy. They make it easy to remember things, which I think is, of course, a big thing. All of the vocabulary, like I said, is pretty simple, and it's geared towards each level. So if you're a complete beginner and you started with the first book, it's very simple vocabulary. There's nothing, you know, nothing hard there. There's nekudot or vowels throughout all of the text. And in general, the 3 books are pretty thorough. So if you buy the 3 books and you work through them, like you will learn a lot, and you will learn a lot about grammar. It really goes through a lot. Like it's excellent in that sense. My biggest like downside about this series is that there's no audio component, so no CD, no MP3 that you can listen to. So like I said, there are nekudot or vowels that so you can figure out how it's read, but if you have the money and if you want to, it might also like there might also be value in possibly getting a tutor and working through it just to hear them pronouncing the words, just to hear how it's supposed to sound. You don't have to do that. I haven't done that, and I've still gotten a lot of value from this series. So it's totally optional to do that, but just know that there's no audio component. Does anybody have any questions so far, just about what I've said so far?
Do you know if
Yes. So then, how do you learn? I'm sorry. How do you learn Maya then how to converse? You are teaching yourself.
Right.
There's no auditory component in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was actually going to get to that. That's one of the next things that I was going to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. So this, of course, like, if you find something else that you think is better, work with whatever you think is better. But I just wanted to recommend this because I've used these books, and for grammar, they're excellent. Like I've had great success with them. So
is there a way of like, is there a table of contents in it that shows which grammatical things are there and
yes. So at the start of every book, there's a table of contents, and it shows you obviously where each chapter starts in terms of pages, but also like the main grammatical things that are taught in each chapter. So I think this is also great for the 2 of you as well, because neither of you are complete beginners. So theoretically, you could skim through the table of contents in all of them and see like, okay, this is roughly where my level is at. Maybe this is a good place to start. So that is definitely in the table of contents. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the next thing that I was going to recommend that I've been trying to do is trying to listen to a lot of Hebrew. So I know I said with this course there's no audio component. So let's actually go through an example. So this is one thing, and this is something, you know, if you have a day job or something, just one second, I just want to make sure it doesn't start playing. Okay. So this is a website. I can send the link to both of you as well. Sorry. I can send the link to both of you as well after the video call. So this is a website where you can pretty much listen to any Israeli radio that you want straight from Israel. And as you can see here at the bottom, like each of these squares is a different radio station. So there's 103 FM, that's one that I listen to a lot. There's Kan, which is like it's a station that just plays like they mostly just have news. They don't really do a lot of music. If you scroll through, like there's ones for different cities. There was one for jazz I remember seeing. So you play around with this and find anyone or just the thing that I like about this is that you can kind of here, if you press the play button at the bottom, and you can also turn it off, and there's volume over here. The thing that I like about this is that because there's nothing to watch, it's just radio. It's easy, for example, if you're working, you can just leave this on in the background and just have it. It doesn't have to be loud. Obviously, it shouldn't be interrupting whatever you're doing, but it's a great way to just leave it on in the background and just give your brain a chance to get used to the sounds of Hebrew. Because when you start talking with people, people tend to talk fast, and there's nothing like, you know, you can study from a book, you can write in a notebook, but that's not going to prepare you for the listening part and for the, you know, the speed of the conversation. So I find that having something like this in the background, just giving your ears a chance to get used to a little bit of Hebrew sounds, really, it really helps, you know, the sounds seep in. And if you listen to this or to anything else, just if you're trying to listen to Hebrew, don't worry about whether or not you can understand things at first. If you can, obviously that's great, but if you can't, that's also okay. It's actually not necessarily the point at the beginning. Like I said, the major point here is just to let the sounds kind of seep in and give your brain a chance to get used to the sounds. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that, you know, when I was younger, I didn't really think about it, but if I had, I would have thought that memory was a little bit like a bucket in the sense that, you know, there's a limited amount of space, first of all. And if you want to learn something new, you just put something in the bucket. Like that was the idea that I had, you know, just cram something in, it'll stay there. And, you know, that was kind of the image that I had of memory and of learning. But a lot of research actually shows that our memories are more like a tree. So what that means is that when we learn new things, it's much easier to learn something if we can connect it to something that we already know. Just like, you know, branches and leaves connecting. So one of the things, you know, when you're learning a new language, one of the things that makes it hard to learn new words is, first of all, learning words from a list can be boring. But also, if you don't really have a base for the sounds kind of already in your mind, like if you're not used to the sounds, then all of the sounds can kind of seem random. And it seems like this, you know, random mumbo jumbo that you're trying to memorize, and it's not related to anything. And it doesn't seem connected to anything that's already in your memory. But I find, just from personal experience, like I've done this a lot with Hebrew and with other languages, when you're a little bit more used to the sounds, it becomes easier to learn new words, because then it's not as random anymore. Now it's like, you know, okay, I know these sounds, and like you have some branches, and you can add some leaves to it. Let me just actually go back. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this part before I move on? I don't know if I explained it well.
No, you explained it well.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to come back to the conversation part a little bit later. There's a few more things that I wanted to show you first. So there's something called Anki. I'm actually going to walk you through this right now. We're going to do this together. 1 second. Okay. So Anki is basically, you might remember like in the past, if you've ever tried to learn vocabulary or really anything, you might have made flashcards at some point to try to review something. So the good thing about living in the age of the internet is we don't have to do everything by hand anymore. So Anki is basically it's a piece of software. You can download it both on your computer, which I'm going to do right now to show you, and it's also available on phones. And it's basically digital flashcards. So I'll download this right now, and I'll show you how it works. It's very safe to use. There's no I've been using it for years. A lot of people use this both for learning languages, and there's even people who use it to get through medical school, like to memorize everything. So like it has quite the reputation. Okay, so here we go. Just installing it now. Sorry, this is just taking a moment. I'm sorry for making you wait. The reason I wanted to do this all entirely from scratch is just because I'm going to show you like how to start using it. Some people, when they first kind of, they've never used it before, and they see what it looks like and they're not sure how to start. So just give it a minute.
How long have you been learning Hebrew?
About 9.5 months.
Uh-huh.
And I think I've made good progress for that time. I can have basic conversations, and I've been reading like children's chapter books. So I think that's not bad for that time. Just
Nice.
this. Okay, I think this is ready. Wait, no. Okay, sorry, 1 second. Okay, I think it's downloaded, so I'm just gonna.
You know, you reminded me when you were talking about the radio stations and the fast conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago in college, I was in a sign language class, and the instructor went full speed. She never slowed down, and we were completely, I mean, it was an hour and a half class, and if you literally, if you stopped to look at the clock, you were
Right.
lost the rest of the class. But by the end of the class, we met students from other classes where they spoke really slowly, and they were so far behind us. It was very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing when you try to expose yourself like a language at real speed. It's very jarring at first. It can feel scary at first, but it's worthwhile. Like
Yep.
in the long term, it's really worthwhile. Okay. I'll update it later. Okay. 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 So if you were to download Anki onto a computer, this is what it looks like. So this actually looks a lot simpler than my phone, but okay. So let's see, X. Okay, I think when you're just starting out, I think you start with add, and then okay. So we're going to add a card right now, a flashcard. Let's do close. Okay. I'm going to walk you through all of that. One thing that I want to draw your attention to is over here. So it says deck default. So, you know, you can use Anki to learn as many things as you like. I'm just going to create a new deck called Hebrew and click add new deck. Okay. So now all of your cards for Hebrew are going to go in here. So I just wanted to show you that. Okay. So let's try an actual card. So I want to show you something that I've been using with this program. I'm going to show you how I use it. You know, obviously, if you want to use it differently, you can, but I'll show what I do, and then I'll explain why I think it works well. So let's try to do a few very, very basic sentences. So just go right here. So, הוא מדבר עברית. He speaks Hebrew. So let's just copy that. Or if you have a Hebrew keyboard, you can type it directly here. So what I like to do is I always like to start with English at the top. So I'm just going to put he speaks Hebrew. Now I have an English sentence and I have the equivalent Hebrew sentence here. If I wanted to, so there's different things that I could do here. This entire field that I'm writing in right now, this is the front of the card. Let me close this and go back to here. This is the front of the card. So theoretically, if I wanted, I could delete this from here and put it on the back. And what that would do is that every time it shows me the card, I would get the English sentence and I would have to remember and come up with the Hebrew sentence. So that's one way of doing it. I personally don't do that, but you can if you want to. You could also do it the other way around, where you could put the English on the back. So, you know, you would just see this. And you would have to read it out loud and remember what it means in English. But what I personally like to do is I like to have the English at the top. So this is all at the front of the card. It's going to be showing you all of this. I like to do fill in the blanks. And the reason why I like to do that is because, you know, for example, if I had just English and Hebrew here, I could read both of them, and it's very passive. Like it's good that I'm reading it. It's good that I'm reviewing it and, you know, getting it into my memory. But, you know, it's also easy to forget it. I find that with doing a fill in the blank for just one word per sentence, it forces me to think a little bit. Like I know what it means. You know, I know what I'm looking for. And in this case, since the thing that I've made a fill in the blank is the verb, it would make me think, like, I know the pronoun is who, so I have to think about what's the correct verb. So here, I'll make a card with this, and then here, let's see how this looks. Actually, let's make a few more cards. I'll just make a few more, and then we'll see how they look when you're studying. Okay. Hebrew deck. Okay, let's do another sentence. I have a good friend. יש לי חבר טוב. So let's go back to this and this. Okay. I have a good friend. So our sentence is יש לי חבר טוב. Let's say that חבר, friend, is the word that I'm trying to learn in Hebrew. That's the new word for me. So I put that. One thing I think I forgot this in the first card that I made. I like to also have English transliteration here. You don't have to do that. You know, you could come up with some other alternative. You could have, for example, this word with nekudot, if you know how to type that in a computer. But I like to have that just to make sure that I'm pronouncing, like when I'm learning words, that I'm also pronouncing them correctly. Because as I'm sure you both know, Hebrew doesn't usually write vowels. So it's easy to think you're pronouncing or think you're reading something right and actually not be doing that. So let's just add this as another sentence. Let's do one more, and then I'll show you what it looks like when you're actually studying with this. Okay. I think I spelled that right. Did I? No, I didn't. Okay. There we go. So this sentence is, he is sitting next to my chair. And al-yad is next to, so let's say that's I'm learning like locations and things like that. And that's the word that I want to learn. So I would just blank that out and put it in the back. So that means that, you know, here. Let's try actually seeing. So we have a Hebrew deck here. Let's hit study now and see what this looks like. So here, this is what it shows me. He speaks Hebrew. Who? Blank. Ivrit. So now it's up to me to remember that the answer is medaber. And personally, I'll just want to show you. Can you guys see my video? Should I do? Okay, I'll just tell you, I guess. Personally, when I'm reviewing these sentences, I like to, after I answered, I write down the full sentence in a notebook. Just because I find when you write things by hand, it really enforces it in your mind much better. Again, you don't have to do that. You can, sometimes I skip certain sentences just because it becomes a lot. But it is something that you can keep in mind as just another way to reinforce some of the stuff. Okay, so he speaks Hebrew. Hu blank ivrit. So you can either hit show answer by clicking on it, or you can just hit enter on your thing, and it'll show you the answer. Medaber. And I think I can even, I can edit this card here, just to add medaber, so that I know exactly what the pronunciation. Hu medaber ivrit. Okay, so let's say I remember that well, I'm gonna put good. Next card. I have a good friend. Yeshli blank tov. So yeshli, I know what the answer is. Yeshli chaver tov. So show answer, and I remembered that well. There's also an option here for easy if you remember something really well and just want to review it a lot less. And there's also an again card, which basically means you forgot. So I'm going to put good, but just so you know about those options. And last one. He is sitting next to my chair. Hu yoshev al yad hakiseh sheli. So I got that one as well. So I think you get the idea. Like it's pretty straightforward once you start using it. There's also if you use Anki and you ever have problems or you're not sure how to do something, you can always just Google it or look it up on YouTube as well. There's a lot of tutorials about how to use it, how to put certain settings, how to do certain things, and you can also contact me anytime, and I'd be happy to answer questions about it or help or anything like that. So what I really like about Anki is that I find, if you make, of course you can make your own flashcards physically, pen and paper and that kind of thing. But it's a lot of work. And the other thing is that, let's say you have a big deck of flashcards, it's hard to remember what are you about to forget, right? Because it takes time from when we first learn something, it takes time to forget it completely. And we don't always know when we're about to forget something. Like it's very hard to keep track of that. The great thing about Anki is that every time you answer a flashcard, it makes a note of how well you responded based on those 3 buttons that we saw at the bottom. And it figures out the best time to remind you of that, like to show you that flashcard again, just before you're about to forget. So like it organizes that aspect of it for you. And it just, it's something that I don't think you'd be able to know if you just had, your own flashcards or something like that. So it's really convenient in that sense. And it just makes it a lot easier to memorize things. Of course, if you want to, you don't have to use this sentence method that I'm showing you. You can just put, individual words and just use it to study vocabulary. You can come up with some other method, like it's, you can, whatever you put in is what you can study. Just one last thing that I want to say about this is one of the things that I like about the sentence method is you learn to use words in context. And I think that's really valuable. Yeah. And always I would recommend no more than like 1 word or 1 verb per sentence that should be new to you. Like there shouldn't be a ton of words in the sentence that are completely new to you. So if you're a beginner, maybe try to keep the sentences a little bit simple. There's nothing wrong with simple or short sentences. Because you don't want to overwhelm yourself. Like you want to be able to concentrate just on the one thing that's new to you, and kind of feel like everything else is taken care of. Any questions about this part?
No, it's good.
Okay. So I'm just going to recommend a few more things that you can use online to listen to Hebrew or to stay immersed in Hebrew. So one of them is there's a YouTube channel. If you look up Piece of Hebrew, so this is his YouTube channel, and it's all of his videos are in Hebrew, but it's specifically with learners in mind. So he speaks a little bit slower, not a lot. And I'm going to show you something that I think is interesting about YouTube specifically. Let me just turn this off first. Sorry, I have to let the ads play because I need to let the video start so I can show you the thing that I want to show you. Okay, so this is a vlog that he did, I think, with his girlfriend, where they did a trip to the Golan Heights and they just talked in Hebrew the whole time. And so there's a few things that I want to show you. First of all, he has subtitles both in Hebrew and English. If you go to the gear here and then subtitles, there's options for, oh, English, Hebrew, and even French now. Okay. Before it was English and Hebrew. So you can turn both of those on. So for example, let's say you're trying to listen and you want to make sure that you're not just hearing what you want to hear and that you know exactly what they're saying. You know, the subtitles are here. You can turn the English subtitles on. So everything is right here. You know, you can play it over. And he also does this thing where he, once in a while, he'll put a word up at the top, and that's to help you with vocabulary as well. And there's one more thing that I want to show you. If you go into the settings in YouTube, there's a thing here called playback speed. So this is, right now it's set to normal. So it's whatever the original speed of the video was. But you can go here and let's say you want to make it 90% speed, which means just a little bit slower than the original. You can do that. If you find his videos a little bit too slow already and you want to make it a little bit faster, you can do 1.1 times speed. So you can play around here with the settings and you can change the speed of any video. And this is true even if you just try to, let's say you listen to a normal YouTube video in Hebrew, not for learners, like something for Israelis. Let's say they're talking super fast and you want to slow it down just a little bit to try to help yourself out. Just go into settings, playback speed, and you can play around with that. So anyway, getting back to this channel. So this is a vlog that he did where they go to the Golan Heights with his girlfriend. And it's about their trip. Sorry, one second. I'm pressing weird things here. Okay. So it's their car trip, and then later on you see them. So he has vlogs like this. He also has videos where, you know, he recommends TV shows. There's Learn Hebrew Through a Game. There's ones where I'm not finding them right now, but there were ones where he would, for example, talk about the winter in Israel, or talk about elections in Israel, or just, you know, some topic about living in Israel. And it's in this format where you also get sometimes like words at the top where there's subtitles for everything. So it's really like, it's real Hebrew, it's authentic, it's not super slowed down or, you know, super dumbed down, but it is like he does things to make it accessible. And it's also like for listening and for like conversational Hebrew, it's also a great resource to learn from. One more thing as well. Sorry, it's showing me something weird. Okay. One more thing as well is that on YouTube, you can obviously find music, any genre that you like in Hebrew. And there's a website called Lyricstranslatecom. This is, I can send you, both of you, the link as well after this video. And basically what this website is about is it has lyrics in many, many different languages, including Hebrew. And then, one second, let me show you. So it has the lyrics in Hebrew, and then it also has, for some of the songs, not all of them, but definitely the more popular ones, you can have a side, there's a translation into English, and you can kind of go through the lyrics line by line, and you have both the translation and the original Hebrew lyrics. So of course you can also look up words in the Hebrew, and you know, I think most people do listen to music, so this is just it's another fun way to pick up vocabulary and, you know, do it sort of organically and do it in a fun way. Yeah, so there's all sorts of things that you can use on YouTube like that. One more thing that I wanted to say as well. Irina asked at the start of this call about, you know, conversation and how do you practice speaking? Sorry, just one second. Okay. Okay, I think, did it stop doing share screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so one thing that I wanted to say was for conversation. So basically, you're going to have to find somebody who's a native Israeli speaker and who's willing to practice with you. If you already know someone, obviously that's great. Another option potentially is a tutor who might be willing to do that. I know that there's also a website, I think it's called italki.net, where, I'm not sure if I typed it in properly. Let me just find it. Yeah. So I think you can look for a teacher if you don't know like where to find a tutor or I haven't used this website personally, but oh, sorry, I just realized I wasn't doing share screen. Okay, one second. Okay, here we go. So this is the website. It's called Italki, and you can find a teacher. You put the language in here, so Hebrew, find a teacher. And the idea is you can find somebody online that you can do virtual classes with. I'm just going to stop sharing screen for a second. Is it showing it right now? I'm so sorry.
No.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I can send that link to you guys as well after this video. But the idea is you can find an online tutor to do video calls with, and that might be a good way just to practice speaking as well. Because so far we've talked about grammar and vocabulary. We've talked about listening a lot. You know, I've showed you some online things that you can use. We've talked about Anki and how, you can use that to review things. But speaking is kind of its own thing. And like I think where I am right now, I can understand a lot in Hebrew, but when I try to speak, it's a little bit slow. Like it takes me time to think. So it's definitely worth it to practice speaking at some point and to include that in your Hebrew learning. Yeah, so I would say a tutor is probably going to be your best bet for that. I think that's everything that I had. If either of you have questions.
No, this is great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming.
It's very nice of you to do this, just to do it.
Yeah, no worries, for sure. Happy to help.
The other thing I was going to recommend for both listening and for speaking, although it's not completely organic, but it's pretty close, is Pimsleur.
Oh yeah.
It works really well, and the important part is to speak out loud, even though you're just listening to a tape, because if you don't speak out loud, then the brain doesn't make those connections like you were talking about.
Yeah, it definitely helps reinforce it. And I think it's also important, like physically, just to practice making the sounds, like with your mouth and everything, with your throat. Yeah.
And it's frequently available in libraries for free. So that's another option, but that can get you up to definitely beginner and even past beginner, depending on how far you go with it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Like I've also found, I haven't personally used it for Hebrew, but I also find sometimes like when I have free time and if let's say I'm watching a show in Hebrew, sometimes I'll hit pause for a second and whatever sentence I just heard, I'll repeat it like out loud. Just that to practice like repeating what you just heard.
Yeah, and the good thing about TV shows, I learned this, when I was in Israel 40 years ago, is it's a really good way to learn idioms. Like I remember I was like a snarky teenager at the time, and I really wanted to learn the expression "you deserve it."
Yeah.
And I didn't find it anywhere. And I was watching the Muppet Show, which was current at the time, and they had. So that's how I learned a lot of idioms.
And also just like conversational stuff that, might not be in a textbook as much, for sure.